Good morning, my name is Dawn. I'm an alcoholic. Who's grateful to be alive, sober, and free on a Sunday morning? Yes! You want to be alive, you got to be awake. I apologize for the cover. I'm a little cold and I'm hoping for a hot flash real quick. It happens. I want to thank Carol and the committee for just an amazing roundup. If you've ever been on a committee and know what kind of an undertaking this is, thank you again so much to the committee for asking all of us to come out and just to put this on year after year in strength and in numbers. Thank you so much. All the speakers that have just laid it down for us and carried a message of depth and weight, and there's a power here. I was so delighted when I got here to realize that to know where I was going. Here's what happened. So I had to leave late, and I arrived about 11 o'clock on Friday night, and I come in, and you know that intuition that we have, and you sometimes you just push it aside. Well, I was driving down, and I saw the Marriott, and I said, I should turn there. And I said, oh, no, I'll just keep on going. I'll just go around the block. So what happens is I turned left, and the concert got out. And I'm in the left-hand turn lane in front of the doors where they all come out. 3 cycles of the whole intersection, throngs of people, and I can't move. So I guess this one guy had been looking at me and watching me from over afar, and he walks over to the middle and he said, ma'am, maybe you should just inch forward and start to move them along and just mow them over, really. I've had a profound alteration in my reaction to life. I thought, you have no idea why I'm here. So I waited, and I finally got here, but I've had a delightful time. I was excited to, the centerpiece, down to the centerpieces last night. I was so tickled over our spiritual toolkit. I really appreciate all the effort gone into it. I want to welcome all the newcomers. Can I have a show of hands who might be a newcomer or coming back? Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for being here. And I really want to welcome those that are coming back. Because if you're trying to control and enjoy your drinking, and you're not enjoying it anymore, welcome home. If your self-knowledge and willpower have failed you again, and you have succumbed to the desire to drink again, welcome home. And if you are rolling around in those bedevilments sober, welcome home. And if you're desperate, and you are tired, and you are drinking against your will, welcome home. All we ask is you grab onto someone and grab a book. Someone with a working knowledge of this big book and is tapped into a power that connects us all, that runs in us and through us and connects us all. Tap into the power of your sponsor, tap into the power of your home group, tap into the power of the fellowship. Because we have a way of living that works. If you walked away from Alcoholics Anonymous saying AA doesn't work, it works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. And it says, we read it almost every meeting, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Tap into the power here, because there is a power that is accessible and we can never be separated from it. My sobriety date is April 16th, 1994, and I have a sponsor, and I have a home group, and that is the women's meeting at the, Thursday night at 6 p.m. at the Canyon Club in Laguna Beach. We don't have a meeting name. Actually, technically, we do have a meeting name. We just didn't think that the Orange County Central Office would print it. Because we call ourselves the Sluts. And it's an acronym for Sober Ladies Using the Steps. We love our meeting name. I came in as a slut, and I became a slut. I truly believe that every sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a demonstration of God's power to change a human being. But how do we change? Well, we use the essentials of recovery that's found in the spiritual experience of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The honesty, the open-mindedness, and the willingness. The HOW of this program. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. But I believe that willingness is the key that it talks about in the third step of the 12 and 12. Because if I'm not willing to be honest, I'm not going to be honest. If I'm not willing to be open-minded, I'm not going to be open-minded. And if I'm not willing to be willing, nothing is going to change for me. And nothing did change for me in my first year of sobriety. So let me tell you how I got into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. But before I do that, I want to tell you a few things about me. When I was 12 years old, I had an epiphany on my parents' front porch. I knew deep down within my gut 3 things about my life. Later on, when I work with a sponsor, she tells me that that thing in your gut, that thing deep down, is your intuition. And your intuition is ultimately a connection to a God. But I don't know that yet. I'm 12. I'm standing on my parents' front porch and I know 3 things. I know I'm not going to have any kids. I knew that my 30s were going to be great. And I knew that I was going to travel the world in a business suit, much like Bill in Bill's story. He said he was going to be the head of a vast empire. He was going to manage with the utmost assurance, and he was going to prove to the world he was important. And I knew those 3 things at 12. And I went, huh, all right. And I went on my merry way. I also believe that we are all born with the divine spark within us. And it's whether we fuel it or we smother it. And each and every time I take a drink, I dim the light of the Spirit within. But there is a power that is accessible, and we can never be separated from it. And in the darkest of dark, there is always a pinpoint of light. Fuel it, smother it. The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous talks about the main problem the alcoholic centers in his mind, not in his body. So let me tell you what I was thinking about between the ages of 12 and 15 when I took my first drink. So I'm a Whittier girl, and when I came up on the high school campus, I was, it was those cliquey things, the socias, the stoners, the rah-rah girls, the drill team, the band, and I never felt like I fit in. Never felt like I fit in. I felt like apart from and not a part of. It's a common thing, common theme around here is that we just felt different. Not enough. You see, I wasn't pretty enough to be in your social group. I wasn't musically talented enough to be in the band. And I wasn't coordinated enough to be in the drill team. And I just wasn't enough. I have no idea where that measuring stick came from. I just wasn't enough. But I rode and showed horses on the weekend. I did very, very well. I won national titles. But there was an equestrian group on campus in Whittier. I was voted the senior class clown. Later on, when I do an inventory, I hear that self-centeredness. Whoopsie. I never had a date in high school. Never went to the prom. Never had a boyfriend. Didn't have any of those experiences. When I talk about high school, I have no recollection except for this. When I was 15 years old, I was with a group of older friends. I was at the El Monte auction. And I drank Southern Comfort right out of a bag. And let me tell you what Southern Comfort did. Southern Comfort comforted. It was like, yes! It was as if I had exhaled for the very first time. And now I am life of the party, game on. I love the effect produced by alcohol. The very first time I read the doctor's opinion, and it said we drink primarily for the effect produced by alcohol, I knew what it meant because I would always continue to seek that which it did for me the very first time. Yes. I never felt equal to, but man, you add that alcohol and it brings me right up to that playing field. I am equal to. Now, as we talk about, alcohol doesn't do anything to you unless it does something for you. So I'm going to tell you about my first lie around drinking, because I know I need to do this again immediately. So I go down to the California DMV, I take my girlfriend's baptism certificate, I sign her name and her birthday, and I let them take my picture and mail it to my address. And I'm thinking it's half legit. So then I'd start lying to my parents, and I'd tell them I was going to the high school dances and football games or anything to do with school, and you know that I never showed up. And you could always find me at the Mississippi Moonshine Club in Downey, because I need the effect. And I am not there to party, have fun, pick up. I'm like, sit me in the corner, give me a drink, I'm good. Because I need to feel the relief that alcohol provides. And don't get me wrong, I mean, you suffer some consequences early on. You know, I started blacking out early on. One time I had started drinking in El Monte on a Saturday night, and I came to on a Sunday morning in my house. I have no idea what happened, and I was reading the paper that morning, and this is when they were tangible, you know, pieces of paper, no longer an app. There was a blurb in there, and it said that there was a fatal hit and run in El Monte. And I panicked, and I ran out to my car to check my car to see if there was any evidence of a dent or blood or hair or anything that could have convinced me of this crime. It wasn't me, but that's where my drinking is leading me, and I don't see it yet. I graduated high school, and at 20 years old, I met a guy in January, and I married him in August. If you're thinking about like that now, you have sponsors. I did not have a sponsor at 20 years old, but I was, you know, at 15 years old, when you have a fake ID and you're coming up on 20 and you get married, you know, I was burnt out of the bars. I mean, I was doing a lot of drinking in the bars. So when I married this guy, he's doing, you know, I am trying to be this doting housewife. So my drinking peters out for a minute, because I've got my first corporate job. I am trying to be this doting housewife. I'm trying to mimic my parents. They're still married to this day. They have 53 years of marriage. I'm trying to mimic their ideas and examples of being in a marriage. And I'm doing the best I can. I'm 20 years old. I got this job, and I'm going to work every day. And I'm trying to be this doting housewife, and I'm cooking meals. And on Saturday mornings, I'm at the grocery store and I'm shopping at 6 a.m. and then I'm going and I'm doing laundry at the laundromat, and I'm just trying to manage the show. And I'm not drinking. You know, we're doing a little thing on the weekends. And I'm trying to be this doting housewife, and I'm doing the best I can. And at 5 months into that marriage, he came home with hickeys on his neck and chest and told me they were bruises from work. And out popped that measuring stick. And I'm not enough? What? I'm not good enough to be your wife? I'm not pretty enough to be your wife? I'm not talented enough to be your wife? You're seeking outside relations. I don't understand. And I don't know where it came to pass, where I attached shame to divorce, and so I stayed in the marriage. And for 7 more months, every time that man left out the front door, he might have been going to Pep Boys or 7-Eleven or to his brother's house. Every time he walked out that front door, I became an ugly piece of work. And I started accusing and verbally assaulting. Sometimes there was physical altercations, and sometimes there were police escorting me out of my own home. Don't you know what he did to me? Don't you know what he did to me? To me. Self-pity and victim oozing out of my pores. And then there was just one day on our 1-year anniversary, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I said, I want a divorce. And he obliged. He says, I'm out. And he left. And so I moved into my parents' house, and for 6 months, I cried myself to sleep. Poor, poor, poor me. Poor, poor, pitiful me. And then it was, pour me a drink. And I looked in the mirror, and ladies, not the booze eyes, the cry eyes, the big puffy cry eyes. I'm looking in the mirror, and I said, I am sick and tired of this, and I'm going to kick ass all over this town. And that's exactly what I proceeded to do. I moved out. I moved into a roommate situation. Game on. I am drinking on Wednesday to prepare for Friday's happy hour. Saturday night is oblivion. Sunday, I'm still drinking, trying to taper off to get to work by Monday. Anybody ever notice that Jim in the big book shows up on Tuesday? Anybody ever think what happened to Jim on Monday? Well, I think he overshot the mark because I did. I was, showing up on Tuesdays, and so I start dating the presidents or owners of businesses I'm working for, and later on when I do an inventory, I understand I'm just insuring my drinking. So you see, I'd call in sick, and he'd send flowers. Come in late, I'm dating the boss. I got a good gig going on. And I start getting dripped with corporate credit cards. I'm getting bling. I'm getting like diamonds and sapphires and movados. Oh my. Back in the day, this is long before cell phones and stuff, but one guy would pay for a telephone service to call and wake me up and get me to work on time. And I start traveling. I'm going to New York and San Francisco and Hawaii and all that kind of stuff. I had a Pretty Woman experience one time, and I do believe it was before the movie. But so he was a man of wealth, and we were going to go to the Bel Air Hotel, and I didn't have a dress. I didn't have anything that caliber. So we fly to San Francisco, we get out, we go to Embarcadero Center, and Donna Karan was the rage at the time, and I couldn't make a decision, on two dresses. So he bought both. And then I walked out with some Donna Karan sunglasses. And it was, and I had arrived. Got back on the plane, came back to Bel Air Hotel. And I'm starting to, my insides aren't matching the outsides. And I don't feel like I belong here, but I'm doing the best I can. And I go into the Bel Air Hotel and start to have this 5-star meal, order a drink, and I spill my drink, and I'm mortified. So I want to backtrack a little bit. Ladies, how many of you drank before the date? How many of you tried to control and enjoy your drinking during the date? How many of you have said, excuse me, I have to go to the restroom? And then you go by the bar and you throw about 3 shots back, come back around, and you sit down and say, I'll have a salad. And then you leave the date and you got to go drink like you need to drink. So when I spilled the drink at the Bel Air Hotel, I finished out the date, and then I got to go drink like I need to drink. I don't belong there, because where I like to drink and where I end up is at the Pico Rivera Rembrandt Room. It has got patent leather seats, it's got court premier walls, it's got urine on the floor and barf in the bathroom, and those are the places I like to drink. If anybody is familiar with Long Beach and the Prospector, I have literally crawled in there, crawled in for a drink, and been drugged back out. They talk about seeking lower companions, and I was the lower companion. Oh no. At a 5-star hotel in Hawaii, I'm sitting on the bed. On page 24, it says, we are without sufficient force to bring into the consciousness the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. And I can't drink away this guilt, shame, and remorse. You see, he's calling his wife one more time, giving her one more excuse about where he's at. Later on, when I do an inventory, I had robbed a wife of her husband, and I have robbed the kids of their dad, and I had robbed their wallet because he was paying my way. And I'd like to stand here and tell you that I only did that once. I did it many times, several different men. I just am a female alcoholic, and I'll do anything I need to get what I want. It's another drink. And I can't drink the guilt, shame, and remorse away. Now, I did have a really good time at that, on that Hawaii trip. And when I came back, I ended that relationship. And I just couldn't do it another minute. So I just shifted my sights to something else. Always seeking that which would provide the relief. At this point, my life becomes very, very colorful. And I start coming to at the top of Mount Baldy, not knowing where I was or who I was with or how I got there. And I would come to and I'd look around and I was terrified. And the only thing I would do was look around for the bottle because I knew that that would be the only thing that would dissolve the knot in my stomach, called fear. And then I would find me knocking on hotel room doors in Pomona. And now I'm risking my life in the need of relief. I need alcohol. I need stuff. And I'm suffering. But along this journey, a man named Jack shows up. Jack and I went on a date. Ladies, how many of you moved in on the 2nd? No hands. Toothbrushes in your purse? Extra set of clothes in your car? All right, got some hands. So anyway, Jack shows up, and I move in with Jack, and he lives in Huntington Harbor, and I had been living in Whittier, and anyway, we move in, and he works nights and I work days, and during this relationship, drinking is really taken off because I've got no gauge, and he's got no idea for a while. Except one time he came home and there was smoke billowing out of the door frame. I was trying to get sober. I was cooking biscuits. You leave them in there long enough, they will catch on fire. Has anybody ever come to in the middle of a field sobriety test? So I told the police officer that my equilibrium was off due to an inner ear infection. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do this part. Told him I was a little off. And I went to jail that night. Has anybody ever come to in a city you didn't know existed? A couple of hands. Love it. Anybody know where La Palma is? Okay. La Palma is 1.82 square miles. And I got pulled over as an obstruction of traffic because I was going 8 miles an hour trying to get somewhere. Went to jail. Jack hung in there as long as he could. Talk about not, being a tornado in people's lives. Not hurting anybody. He called me up one day and he says, "I'm not going to watch you kill yourself or anybody else, I'm leaving." And he left. So I'm in Huntington Harbor, and he leaves, and this is what my alcoholism looks like. I'm driving to work, I'm drinking peppermint schnapps on the way to work because I know it smells like toothpaste, and I have alcohol underneath the right-hand side, the passenger side of my car. I've got alcohol in my trunk. I've got alcohol on my right-hand side drawer of my desk, and at lunchtime I call up the Japanese bar and I tell her 2 words, Black Russian. And she's got 2 lined up. When I get there, I gun those down. I leave around and run over to Circle K. I get the vodka bottle and a Circle K cup. I pour the vodka in the Circle K cup, and that's my afternoon drink. And then on the way home, I have bar tabs, liquor store tabs, and restaurant tabs, all the way from Santa Ana to Huntington Harbor on Warner. When I get home, I have alcohol stashed in my shoe boxes. I have it in my suit pockets. I have it underneath the kitchen sink, and I have alcohol in my toilet tank. And then I'm hiding it from me. And in our book it says we have but 2 alternatives. One is to blot out the consciousness of our intolerable situation the best we can, or accept spiritual help. During the time of my DUIs, I had gone to Alcoholics Anonymous, went on the court card. I came into the rooms, I listened to your stories, and I'd be like, yeah, I drink too. I didn't know you guys were sober. Because you come in here and you share your pain. And I'd be like, yeah, that's a reason to drink, absolutely. and then you come in here and share your joy. And I'm like, yeah, great idea. I didn't know. I didn't hear the lingo. I didn't hear anything about, steps. I listened to the differences, not the similarities, and I have no clue. I don't hear about detoxes and sober livings, none of that lingo, nothing. I go there, I get my court card signed, listen to your story. Now what I know is that you come in here and you share your pain and it's divided. And you share your joy and it's multiplied. And we have a power here that connects us all. And I don't know that. Just get my court card signed. So our book says we have two alternatives. One is, blot out the consciousness of our intolerable situation the best we can, or accept spiritual help. I have no idea there's help. Rent booze. Rent booze. I move. I go to Seal Beach. Seal Beach is an old town, lots of money, a lot of blues, and a lot of blackouts. I can tell you two things about Main Street, or Hennessy's and Main Street. It's the only thing I can remember about Seal Beach, and a lot of blackouts. Hennessy's, Main Street. On April 15th, 1994, I was living in a roommate situation, and I had blacked out one more night, and my roommate and her boyfriend put me to bed. And when I came to in the morning, I knew I had to get to work. And I came to and I got up and I could not stand fully erect. And I had the DTs before, but I had never had them this bad, and I was shaking violently. And I couldn't walk fully erect, and I'm trying to feel my way into the shower. And when I got into the shower, the water hit my body and I felt like I was being hit by pellets. And anyone who's had that experience knows what I'm talking about. Like you've been being hit by a Mack truck. And when I went to wash my hair and my hair hurt, I knew I was in trouble, and I knew what would fix it. So I left and I went and got another bottle of Bacardi, and I came back, and the rest of the story has been fed back to me by those involved. My employers broke into my house, they broke into my room, and they tapped me on the shoulder and they said, "Pack your bags, you're going somewhere." And I believe that God used them as a channel to get to me, because God had been trying to get my attention for a really long time. And I believe that that was the hand of God that touched me that day, because I was instantly sober. And I asked no questions, and I had no fight. And they said, "Pack your bags," and I dutifully followed direction. These were my employers. And I packed a duffel bag and I put some Bacardi in it. And they said, "Get in the car," and I got in the car, no questions. And I got in the car. And then we approached this facility. And we get out of the car and I stop. Because I'm being escorted by one employer on one arm, one boss on one arm, and one boss on the other. Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. You know, they talk about no dues or fees here. I paid a lot of dues and fees out there. But the demoralizing fact that I was being escorted into a detox by my employers, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, the acronym for that is PAID. I had paid dues and fees for the situation I was now in. It was demoralizing for me to be escorted in. So they said, "Go through the door," and I went through the door, and they said, well, they were doing my intake. They found my Bacardi. I was really pissed off. I had no idea what was happening. Nothing. Remember, I don't hear about detoxes and sober livings. Nothing. I know nothing. And they said, "Well, listen, do you have any parents? Do you need to make a call?" And I'm like, No, I've got this. It's all good. And I said, "Well, listen, you're going to be here for a minute. You want to make a call to your parents?" I'm like, "Well, they moved out of state 25 years ago. They live in Washington." And they said, "Well, you can make a call." I'm like, "Okay." So I finally conceded, and I called my parents, and I said, "Mom, Dad," I said, "Are you sitting down?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I'm going to detox for alcohol." "Oh my God, Dawn, where are you?" "I don't know." She said, "By God, Dawn, you're our daughter. Where are you?" And I said, "I don't know, Mom." She said, "Ask somebody." So I turned around and I said, "Where am I?" And she said, "You're at New Beginnings." I said, "Mom, Dad," they said, "I'm at New Beginnings." She said, "Well, where are you? We'll fly down physically. We're going to fly down. We'll assess the situation, see how we can help and what we can do for you." And I said, "You just stay where you are. I got this handled. I'm trying to manage my life in detox." And she says, "I'll learn later on what we do to our families." You see, my mom and dad, they would call me up and we'd be chatting just for a minute, and they'd say, "Dawn, have you been drinking?" "No," click. And then they couldn't find me for 3 days. Talking about that undue stress, that worry, that terror that we inflict on others. They can't find their daughter. So she said, Dawn, please let us know where you are. So I said, where am I? They said, you're at the New Beginnings at Clark and Candlewood in Lakewood. I said, Mom, Dad, I said, they tell me I'm at New Beginnings at Clark and Candlewood in Lakewood. And my mom said, at Clark and Candlewood in Lakewood? I said, that's what they said. She said, Dawn, in 1964, you were born there. It was Lakewood General Hospital at the time. And as I stand here before you, I never want to forget the chills down my legs, because that was another moment where God was trying to get my attention. And he got it. I realized that I was biologically born here. I can get a new beginning on life, a new lease on life, if I just stay. So I stayed. And 2 weeks later, the insurance kicked me out. And I will always be forever grateful to Bill and Bob, who talked about attraction, not promotion. And there was a woman, and her name was Eileen, and Eileen ran the aftercare program. I was not required to attend this. I was not required to attend this meeting that she facilitated, and not by my employers, not by the insurance, nothing. There was an attraction there. You see, Eileen, she had a genuine inner peace that radiated out. She had an authentic smile. She was happy, and you didn't even have to ask her. You knew it, you could feel it. She vibrated. I wanted what she had, and I sat next to her week after week after week, thinking I'd get it by transference. I had no idea there was work involved. And I sat next to her for 1 year. And I did nothing in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And on the phone on my 1 year anniversary, I was talking to another alcoholic, and I said, if this is what sobriety is all about, I don't want any part of it. I am a miserable bitch. I can't stand this. It feels horrible. I was restless, and I was irritable, and I was discontent, unless I can again experience a sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks. And I knew I couldn't drink, and I knew something had to change. All I had done was remove the alcohol. I had not recovered my mind, and I was still suffering, and I was suffering from a spiritual malady, and I didn't know it. And on the phone, that person suggested to me, why don't you get a sponsor? Why don't you work the steps? Why don't you go to some women's meetings? And why don't you get involved in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, and your life will change? And on the phone, on that night, my willingness was born, and I was all in. Admit one. Admit one, I'm in. I will always... what I had been doing really, and please don't get me wrong, I was fellowshipping. I was going to meetings, fellowshipping. The fellowship will support us, but the steps change us. And the fellowship will cure the loneliness of alcoholism, but it will not produce the entire psychic change that's promised us in the doctor's opinion. The steps do that. Forever grateful to the people that record our spiritual, our legacies that gone before us. Because I glommed on, I did a lot of driving to and from work, and I would listen to these CDs. And I loved them, and I will tell you that the power behind those is that the two speakers broke down the steps in a series, in a way in which I heard, and launched me into a course of action. One speaker broke down the steps like this. 1 is me, 2 is God, 3 is me and God, 4 and 5 is me, 6 and 7 is God, 8 and 9 is you, 10 is me, 11 is God, and 12 is you, and there's no one else to play with. Let's get stepping. The other speaker broke it down like this. 1 is I am the problem. 2 is come to believe that there is a solution. 3 is a decision to seek that solution. 4 through 9 take care of that past. 10 takes care of our daily life. 11 takes care of our spiritual life. And 12 takes care of our AA way of life. How you living? How you living? When no one's looking. When they asked me to come in and come to believe, a belief about a God. I had come to you out of a religion at 13 years old. I had come to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had a belief in a God, but And a great big God. You see, when I had this religion I did not understand nor did I believe in, and at 13 years old our parents let us opt in or opt out, I opted out. Later on I would believe that I was not worthy of God's love because of things that I was doing as a female alcoholic. And I didn't feel like I was worthy. I will be forever grateful for that chapter called We Agnostics, because all through that chapter it talks about lay aside a prejudice and express even a willingness. And when I come here to you, and I start to watch, I come into the rooms and I'm looking for this hope here. Do I have any hope that whatever's working for you could possibly work for me? Because it says I have to find a power in which to live. So I start watching you. And I start to watch your eyes start to twinkle. And I start to watch your skin glow. And I start to watch your character change. And I can't see, feel, or touch your God. So I picked the wind for a really long time. Because I can't see the wind. I can only see the effects of the wind rippling through the leaves of a tree. I can feel the effects of the wind on my face. And the wind is so powerful it can change a landscape. And if I can't see, feel, or touch the wind, and I can't see, feel, or touch your God, I can have a belief about a power. When they asked me to make a decision, I could tell you the very paragraph on the very page that changed my life and changed my mind in Alcoholics Anonymous. And that paragraph is on page 55. And it says, deep down, in every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. It is there that he may be found. Later on it says, in the last analysis, it is there that he may be found. And I knew it. Because I'd had it before, I had it on my parents' front porch, and I wanted it back, and I wanted it back now, and what do I have to do? I said, make a decision. Okay. The prayer says, relieve me of the bondage of self. It never said, relieve me of the bondage of alcohol. Relieve me of the bondage of the self. I am the problem. At 16 years sober, I can tell you what happened. I had gotten a job when I was 2 months sober. I was a file clerk at a temp service, and through some perseverance and some diligence and doing the right thing and going to school and all this stuff, I got hired. I got moved up the corporate ladder. And I made my way to senior manager of a global corporation. 16 years sober, I got a pocketbook, I got some prestige, and I got some power. And I start treating my employees with disdain and rudeness and curtness, and I was demanding. And they didn't like the way I was acting. Apparently, this is threatening. They took me to HR and they wrote me up. I signed it. It was well deserved. But what happens? Fear starts to permeate my life. It's that evil corroding thread. And it starts to permeate throughout everything. It's coming out in my home, and it's coming out with my sponsees, it's coming out with my friends, and eventually I'm spraying that fear around, and finally it comes right back into work. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my job. At 16 years sober, I was terminated in sobriety. And that was not an easy pill to swallow. And what happened for me was I was leveled. When I got fired, I was on the floor in my room in a fetal position with bubbles coming out of my mouth, guttural cry, can't speak, and I don't know what happened. I will come to find out I've been plugging into the wrong power. Plugging into the wrong power. That power of prestige, the power of the pocketbook, and just simply, I am the power. I'm no longer the power. I'm not the power. What happened was there was a gentleman, and he would run a spiritual retreat for men. And with his wife's permission, myself and another sponsee, we went to do this retreat in his home. And during that experience, we got to this third step, and he pointed out a sentence to me in that big book I never saw. It was printed in 1939. Nothing's changed. It was there. And it says the wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we express the idea of voicing it without reservation. Write your own third step prayer. And I followed direction, and I did that. And I was in the middle of an Albertsons parking lot. I was writing my third step prayer. I was bawling in the guttural cry again. But then I was cracked wide open for a brand new experience. Brand new experience. I won't go through 4 through 9, but I can talk about 10 because 10, to me, in my opinion, is the least used and often overlooked step. It says continue, 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 4 times in one paragraph. It tells me I have to have this examined life. It also shows me, it's my demonstration of the willingness to show God that I'm still willing. It's my demonstration that I'm still willing to do this thing. It says I've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. It does say that we cease fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, which means I'm still the problem. And, it says when these crop up, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Sometimes I can't go there. I can't get there fast. It says when these crop up, not if. They are going to come. So I just ask myself these 5 questions. Do I have a need to control the person or the situation? Do I have a need to be right? Do I have a need to be heard? Do I have a need to be liked? And do I have a need to know? And if I can answer yes to any one of those questions, I'm jumping right into a 10-step, and then I can find the selfishness and dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Because my external behavior is a result of my internal condition. And our book talks about a spiritual condition. It says this is how we react as long as we're in fit spiritual condition. And then it says 5 lines later, we have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. I'm like, what's the condition? What is that? It means unblocked. Keep that grace flowing. Because I can get corked up I get corked up real quick. Anybody? Restraint of tongue, pen, and the send button? How many of you have damaged relationships by the send button? Right. Happened to me several times. Pause. When agitated or doubtful. And so if I'm trying to control something, I've got some anxiety, I've got some worry, I'm really, just worked up about it. The other day I was trying to control a newcomer. Not an easy feat. They've got their own set. They've got their own mindset. But I know that when I let God's grace flow in, I have a much peaceful day. This 10-step is, we're required to do it all day, every day, not just once, but all day, every day. Keep checking. Keep checking your motives. Are you checking? You're using those yardsticks of love, unselfishness, honesty, purity. Those 4 absolutes. We're checking ourselves against that. And I talk about the 11th step because my sponsor, my first sponsor, she was 81 years old with 36 years of sobriety when she passed away. And she loved the 11th step. And she'd like to do 4 hours of prayer and meditation. Right. Because she could. She was 81. She could do it. But she always used to, for me, the 11th step is just really fulfilling the decision of the commitment, fulfilling my commitment to the decision I made in step 11, or step 3. Think about it. I'm fulfilling the commitment of my decision I made in step 3. She used to always talk about it. She'd say, Dawn, she'd say, listen, if you don't seek God in the morning, it's your first act of self-will. Think about it. It's your first act of self-will if you don't seek God in the morning. It says in our book, upon awakening, we ask God. Ask God to direct your thinking, especially to be divorced from self-pity, dishonesty, self-seeking motives. Ask. She says, if you don't have to seek God the rest of the day. Practice the presence. I know that for me, when I'm doing prayer and meditation, I know that I want to meditate first because I've been taught that if you don't meditate first, you can't pray effectively. It's just something I incorporate. There's a power, and it's accessible, and you can never be separated from it. Went to that meditation workshop yesterday. It was fabulous. I I have a jingle. I hope you go home with it. It says, meditation is a medication for my malady. Go. Meditation for my medication is my medication for my malady. I love my little jingle. Our step says improve. I like to sometimes zero in on the words of the steps. They're action words. They're verbs. Improve. Anybody ever look it up? It says to make better, to enhance that which was already there. What I came looking here for, I came looking with. Just ask you to shine it up. Shine it up. It's been there all along. Fuel the spark into a fire. The 12 steps says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, it does not say as the result of my attendance. I did that. I attended. I did nothing. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. You see, I'm here as a result of someone else doing God's work. And if I'm out there doing my 12-step work, it can be as someone else's first step. Our job really here is to grab someone's hand, help them out of the dark, put them on a path, and be the light for the feet that are afraid until they can find and tap into their own power. Leave their hand in the hand of God and leave it there. My sponsor always said that. Place their hand in the hand of God and leave it there and let them do the same for someone else. I volunteered in indigent detox for women down in Orange County. I love to watch these girls' lights shine. When they start to get their 30-day chip and they're so excited. And the 60-day chips, and we go, I take them out for walks with my dogs, and we get to see this power that connects us all. I take them to a tree that I designated the prayer tree in the riverbed. So would you like to pray with me? And they do. And they have maybe their own little subtle experience. But the joy is a couple of Friday nights ago, I asked the girls, I was taking them for a walk, and they said, oh, we've already been for a walk today. And I said, who took you for a walk? And they said, so-and-so. And they said, they took us to the prayer tree. That is the joy. It's just paying it forward. For me, when I felt like I was grounded in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was about 5 years sober, and I realized that I was really grounded because it occurred to me that I never did have any kids. I got sober when I was 29 and a half, and my 30s were great. So were my 40s. Just into my 50s right now, so I'm anticipating that'll be fabulous. And I've been able to travel the world. It has never been through business. It's always been with gifts laid at our feet. I mean, we've paid our way, but just opportunities that have come up, and we've jumped on those. Been to China and France and South Africa and Hawaii and Fiji and Honduras and Ireland and England and just a lot of places. And I'm so excited because Bill and Bob, Bill especially, he always wanted Alcoholics Anonymous at his for traveling salesmen at their destination. And I can tell you that to this day it's true, is that, everywhere we have gone, there's always been a meeting at our destination. The language may be different, but the message is the same. It's the language of the heart. Before I close, I want to tell you that I believe that we all get the opportunity to grow here. My sponsor used to always talking about, gosh, you think you're not connected, you think nothing's moving, nothing's shaking, and And she said, you're getting ready for a spiritual leap. And I'll tell you, I have been leveled several times. And in 2010, I lost that long-term job, the 16-year job. What I don't often talk about is 13 days later, my husband, at 32 years, was a reduction in force. After 32 years of the same job, starting when he was 18 years old, he lost his job 13 days after I did. We went from a 6-figure income to unemployment. Leveled. And I will tell you, that since that time, we have never regained that financial status, and it's been the happiest days we've ever known. Because we always walk around here, I trust God, I trust God. It's trust and rely on God. And so we had to have this reliance. We never missed a payment, we never went hungry, the dogs always got fed. There was a reliance. In 2012, I lost my long-term sponsor, leveled. For 30 days, I was a Thursday night, I saw her, I believe I was the last one to see her. They found her, and she happened to pass away on my sobriety birthday. And so one of my sober sisters called me, and I thought she was calling to wish me a happy birthday. And they said, they had no idea, and they just said, Dawn, Betty has passed. They found her on the couch. And I was leveled. And for 30 days I walked around without a sponsor. That sucked. Not knowing what to do, I'm lost. Level to grow, level to grow, level to grow. Spiritual leap, she's always in the back of my mind. In 2013, I had rescued a dog. I had not had a dog since I was 15 years old. Parents always took care of that stuff, you know. So I rescued a dog in 2006 and 2005. 2013, I did not know that dogs got cancer. I had no idea. And I was delusional because they said she had cancer. Would you want to do the surgery? Yes. I mean, we do everything. And so they said that, when it comes back, it will be fast and will be with a vengeance. And I'm like, oh, you don't know my dog. I mean, I was absolutely delusional. And then the dog passed away and I was jacked up. I was delusional. I was walking around. My husband was traveling at the time for work, and I think he thought I was going to go insane. And I think for a minute I did, very subtly. I did a lot of crazy stuff. Like walking the dog with a leash. The dog wasn't in there. I would go on her walks with a leash. But it was momentous for me. In 2015, I had a sponsee who... we were sitting on the couch on a Monday night. We're sitting on the couch and we're doing the purest form of Alcoholics Anonymous, one-on-one with a book. And we're talking about the steps, and we're doing some book work, and we're reading and doing what we're doing. And my husband came home, and he was teasing her about something, and then he went on his way, and everything. We were high-fiving each other, no problem. Wednesday, she texted me, and she said, you know what, I'm not feeling very well, I'm going to go to the hospital, or I'm going to go to ER. Thursday, she texted me and says, you know, I'm going to get admitted, or, you know, I'm still here, you know, there's been some things going on, and really kind of vague. So Friday I decided I'm going to go to the hospital and see what's going on because I'm not getting really much answers. And I walk and I get out of the elevator and her brother's there and he's like bananas. And he said, she's not going to make it. And I'm like, what the heck happened? Anyway, we sat with her and she was all hooked up to all these things. And I don't know what happened. I do know now. But anyway, I would sneak in there at midnight and I'd rub her and I'd touch her and I'd, you know, come on. But anyway, on Tuesday she passed away. I leveled again because she didn't die as a result of going out or complications. Something else had happened. 29 years old, 10 years sober. 29 years old. Leveled. I couldn't understand. But it happens. But I'm here, I'm present. Here's what I can tell you. Leveled to grow. To have a connection to a power greater than myself. To know that all is really well. If I'm living in yesterday and I'm living in tomorrow, I'm going alone. Because God is right here, right now. Right here, right now. When we were in China, we were asked to, you know, we had the option to go to the Great Wall. And we get on the bus, and the bus driver lets us off, and he says, if you go to the left, you can see that there is A lot of congestion on this side of the wall. Very easy climb. Or you can get off and you go onto the wall and you can see that nobody's there. Very, very difficult climb. That's why nobody's on it. But listen, you guys take your pick and we'll see you at 3. So I get off the bus. What do? Alcoholic. We choose a difficult climb. So we get on the wall, me and my husband, and so so we're starting to climb this wall, and I'm starting to take the steps up the wall, and I'm like, oh my God, it was an optical illusion. By the way, there's no quality control back when that wall was built. Steps are this big, this high, that high. It's crazy. So anyway, we go to the wall, and so we're starting to climb up, and I'm like, oh God, stop. All right. Catch my breath. All right, let's keep going. So we keep on going, and finally at some point I said, Steve, can you help me? Can you push me, pull me? I don't care what you do, but can you help me up a little bit further? And he says, I'll do what I can. So we did, and he starts pushing me up a little bit further. And I said, okay, just wait a minute. Okay, just stop. Because this thing is straight up. It's like the incline is incredible. I couldn't believe it. No wonder nobody was on it. So we stop, and I'm like, okay, let me take a breath. Let me get some strength. Let me get some courage. All right, let's keep going. So we kept on going, and we finally got to this little plateau area. And if you've ever seen an aerial postcard view of the Great Wall of China, you often see it that it's empty and it wraps for miles on that postcard. That is the vision that I received. I had it was stunning. And I dropped to my knees and I said, dear God, thank you. I never imagined in my whole life I would ever be on the Great Wall of China, ever. Thank you for this opportunity. Wow. This wow factor. Wow. And this is what came back to me. Sometimes the steps take our breath away. Sometimes you gotta stop and you gotta ask for help. Can you help me with this 4-step? Can you help me with this 9-step amends? Can you suggest some prayers for this troubling situation? Sometimes you just gotta ask for help. And sometimes you just gotta stop, regroup, get the courage and the strength to move forward. And you'll find a level of peace. And on the wall is when I realized I had finally achieved a level of Eileen's peace, that lady in the aftercare program. When I apply the steps, they always provide me a quiet mind, a skip in my step, and joy in my heart, and peace in my soul. And I hope and pray they do for you too. Grab someone's hand, help them out of the dark, put them on the path, and be a light for them. May we awaken and live. Thanks.